Good evening, C3 parents. Welcome back. I'm your coach Karien Pitout, and welcome to our conversation tonight. I'm sorry about the delay on going live. Um, for some other reason, my laptop just didn't want to work with me. Right, so let's dive into tonight's conversation. I'm actually going to look at the 4 most important questions you can ask yourself if you're planning to immigrate to a different country. And it's the questions, especially if you've got kids. This one is specifically focused on when you have kids, what you need to look at when you are planning to immigrate. So, welcome to the conversation, and let's dive right into it. Now, the first question that you actually have to ask yourself is safety. Safety for your child, in the sense of what kind of freedoms will your child be able to exercise when they are in a different or in a new country. Whether it is being able to bike outside without adult supervision, constantly almost like having to helicopter parent over your child, whether they will have a certain freedom regarding licenses, even legal age of alcohol use, and also the legality of drugs, and recreational drugs and so forth. The reason we need to ask ourselves this is we don't want to move our children from a space where they have a significant amount of freedom of movement, freedom of choice, freedom of expressing who they are. And this also boils down to their safety regarding freedom of gender and sexual identity, and sexual orientation. When you look at that, what kind of barriers will there be, new barriers will there be for your child to actually cross should you decide to make the move to this different country? So safety for your child is an extremely important question. And also, what is the safety regulations regarding car use, whether it's car seats and so forth? Often when we decide to immigrate or move to a different country, we decide that whether we've got a job offer or we've been seeking work outside of the country that we're currently living in. And then we look at mostly at our economical freedom, cost of living, how much will it, will both parents have to work? Will one parent be able to have free time? Yes, that is an important sector of your decision making. But when it comes to our children, we often make decisions on the level of where the parents are at, and not necessarily and then it trickles down later on, like after we've kind of already made up our mind about a country, then we start looking at the implications for our children. I want you to change that algorithm in your head. That before you start searching for a job outside the country that you're currently residing in, start with child center focused. Because in the end of the day, when you move there and you pass on, or it comes to the end of your life, your children still has to be able to build a future in that country going forward. So it has to be one of the most important decisions. The second question that you need to ask yourself when we're talking about immigration and we have kids is education. What is the standard of education? Go Google the countries that you actually have been interested in visiting or in going to work in, and go look at their education level. What is the laws in those countries regarding education? We have recently moved from South Africa to the Netherlands, and one of the things that I personally that was a stumbling block for me and initially made me very weary of the shift or the move, was not the standard of education, because the Dutch education standard is incredibly high. But the laws in the country of the Netherlands it really is frowned upon to do homeschooling. It is possible to do homeschooling, but it's very difficult. You have to abide by certain laws to be able to get that passed. And should you actually be a homeschooling family and you decide to go to a different country, what is the laws of that country regarding homeschooling? Will your children actually fall under a new set of laws that will be enforced, that your children have to attend school, that homeschooling might be illegal, those kind of things? And then besides the standard of education, just like how child-centered or how centered that education will be. And you actually get that if you start joining conversational parenting forums of that particular country, and where you can actually ask those questions. Say, listen here, we're considering coming to the country. Please explain this about your education system. What is it about your education system that you like, what you dislike? And most definitely, if you have a child that is differently abled, whether it is neurodiverse or physically diverse, what kind of supports are there for those children? How does the schools work? How integrated is the society? How child-centered is that society on paper and in reality? And look at how the two play out. That also helps you prepare going forward on how to make your decisions regarding which part of the country you might live in. The country's laws might be perfect for you, but there's a certain part of the country where you and your family might not really fit. So you're going to have to look at a different part of that country should you decide to relocate or, immigrate and actually search for work. It is very important not just to go like, oh, pick this country, and you don't have that kind of information, even because even from town to town, inside a country, the education system can differ, the quality of education can differ. So that's questions that you actually need to, and then also the cost of education. If you decide, especially if you're English speaking and you're going to a country where the native language is not English, some have international schools where the teaching medium is still English, but that those schools might be extremely expensive and might not be within your ballpark. So will your child have to learn a new language? What kind of supports are there to get to teach your child this new language and to be able to move forward as a family in settling in and integrating into the new society? Remember, if you decide to immigrate, you're choosing a different country to become part of and to integrate into. So you'll need to at least have a blueprint or a ballpark idea of what challenges you might be facing so that you can prepare yourself for those challenges as they arrive, as they expect, and almost preempt them and move forward with that. The third thing that you need to ask yourself is the healthcare system. Is it a medical aid system where people who are employed actually for better medical health care needs to pay for a medical aid? The work that you're looking at, will the position that you're applying for actually have medical cover via the company? Those questions you're going to have to ask yourself. Is it most of the European countries, where you actually have a single payer system, where it is a government system, and you as an expat coming in, or as a person from the outside coming in, what will be the impact and expectations on the medical side be? And then how is your children covered with that healthcare? Once again, especially if you've got neurodiverse kids, or you yourself make use of chronic medication or have a pre-existing condition, obviously, you're going to have to sit and break those things down. And don't be afraid to ask people that either have done that, done the move, the same as what you're planning from your home country to the country that you're considering, or to reach out in parenting groups or in groups where you actually speak to those people and actually be able to ask, but listen here, how does this fit together? Where does it, how did it bring it all together? And then the last one, it is, for us as a family, it was extremely important that we went to look at the happiness rating, the children's happiness rating, to get an idea what is the view in society and the view of children, how they view themselves within that society. Are they happy? Are they sad? Do they struggle? What is the depression rate? Things like what is, when it comes, once brings me back to the whole, almost the safety rate, the stats of teenage pregnancies, the stats of teenage suicides. all those things have a significant role in what you're going to go through and delve into when you are looking to immigrate. So just to repeat the 4 questions. First of all, the safety. What kind of freedoms will my child have and how will they fit into the society? Education, the standard of the government education as well as the privatized education system. Language, how is language supported if that country speaks a different language? Um, and what is the quality of, obviously, the quality of education, and is education free, or is it, how much does it cost? If it costs, can you do homeschooling or not? Healthcare, how supportive is the healthcare? Should you have, especially if you have a special needs child, but also how do you approach healthcare, and will it bankrupt you should there in the future some or other situation come to the forefront, and you all of a sudden need medical support? And then lastly, how happy is the children when you look at depression rates, suicide rates, teenage pregnancies, those kind of things. And that is where I'm going to end tonight's conversation, guys. Please stay safe. Get vaccinated, and I'll see you guys in the next conversation. Our next conversation will be some tips and tricks in preparing your child for immigration once you've made up your mind and decided. I'm looking forward to chat with you. If you have any questions or anything that you would like to contribute to this conversation, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. And if you have not subscribed yet, please remember to ring that bell and subscribe, and then ring that bell, and please hit the like button. It really helps moving this, basically helping getting this information out there. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.